Hello everyone and welcome to the channel One Grung DM, where we are uploading our first video. So naturally, I think we should start with a race that I feel is one of the coolest in Dungeons & Dragons, that being the Grung. And right off the bat, I do need to mention that the Grung is not official D&D material, but is in fact a rules supplement, created as part of a partnership with the charity Extra Life. This means that while it is available for sale on places like D&D Beyond, it is listed as non-core D&D material, and as such you will need to speak with your DM before deciding to play as a Grung. Because as the sourcebook will tell you, the Grung is not a legal playable race in D&D Adventure League, or in any campaign where your DM hates amphibians, especially ones with excessive amounts of apostrophes in their names. With that out of the way, let's get into what grungs actually are. Grungs are aggressive, frog-like humanoids found in rainforests and tropical jungles. They are fiercely territorial and see themselves as superior to most other creatures, which means, yes, like many of the monsters in D&D, grungs are slavers as well. They are tree-dwelling amphibians, being based off of tree frogs in real life. They live in trees and prefer shade. A grung hatchery is a well-maintained and guarded ground-level pool or pond. About 3 months after hatching, a grung tadpole takes on the shape of an adult, and in just another 6 to 9 months, a grung juvenile will reach maturity. This offers a lot of fun role-playing opportunities because you can have a fully adult grung in your campaign who is less than a year old. Grungs live in a very strict caste-based society. Each caste lays eggs in separate hatching pools, and juvenile grungs will join their caste upon emergence from the hatchery. All grungs are initially a dull greenish gray when they are born, but each individual will take on the color of its caste as it grows into adulthood. Green grungs make up the lowest caste of this society. They are the tribe's warriors, hunters, and laborers. Next up, you have the blue grungs, who work as the tribe's artisans and in other domestic type roles. Above them, you have the purple grungs, who supervise and guide both groups, and also serve as administrators and commanders. Above those three, you have the red grungs, who serve as the tribe's scholars and magic users. They're superior to the purple, blue, and green grungs, but are still below the orange and gold grungs. However, the orange and gold grungs still give them proper respect due to their unique position in society. In the second highest position, you have the orange grungs, who serve as the tribe's elite warriors and have authority over all lesser grungs. Above them are the gold grungs, which hold the highest leadership positions in the tribe. A tribe's sovereign is always a gold grung, and there is always only one gold grung per tribe. Normally, a grung will live out the entirety of its 50-year life within its own caste. However, on rare occasions, it is possible for an individual that distinguishes itself with great deeds to earn an invitation to join a higher caste. Through a combination of herbal tonics and ritual magic, this grung changes colors and is elevated into this higher caste. It's then treated the same way a juvenile from that caste would be, and from now on, all of its progeny will be born into this new caste. Grungs being based off of tree frogs obviously have a natural toxicity to them, secreting a poison that is harmless to them and other grungs, but is deadly to other creatures. We'll go over this poison a little bit later, but just know that this is one of the best features about the grung. As I mentioned earlier, grungs, being a more monstrous kind of race in D&D, are obviously slavers. They are on the lookout for creatures to capture and slave all the time, and they use their slaves in a manner of different menial tasks, but they mostly just like having them around so they can boss them around, which makes grungs feel good about themselves and more powerful. The slaves are fed a mildly poisoned food based off of the grung's own poison, which keeps them both lethargic and compliant. A creature afflicted in this way over a long period of time eventually becomes a shell of its former self, and can only be restored to normalcy by magic. Now let's get into the Grung's traits and what I think makes a Grung such a unique and amazing playable race for your next character. Grungs have an ability score increase of 2 to their dexterity and 1 to their constitution. They are a small creature, of course, so they only have a 25-foot walking speed, but they also have a 25-foot climbing speed, coming from that arboreal nature that we mentioned earlier. In addition, their arboreal alertness gives them a proficiency in perception, which we all know is one of the strongest skills in the game. Grungs, being frogs, also have the ability to breathe both air and water, and they have their standing leap ability, which lets you long jump up to 25 feet and high jump up to 15 feet with or without a running start. Now, for the Grung's two best abilities in my opinion. First, their poison immunity, which gives them straight up immunity to poison damage and the poison condition. This is amazing. You'll often see races with resistances to certain damage types, such as Goliath and Cold, Tiefling and Fire, or Plasmoid with poison and acid resistances. But you'll basically never see a race with straight up immunity to a damage type, and especially one as common as poison damage. Next is the Grung's poisonous skin. Anytime another creature so much as touches your skin, they must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or become poisoned for 1 minute. Once the creature breaks contact, they can then repeat the saving throw at the end of its turn, ending the condition on a success. Additionally, you can apply this poison to any piercing weapon as part of the attack with that weapon, meaning you get to apply this poison for free each turn with no action cost to you. And when the poison is used in this way, if the creature fails its saving throw, it will take 2d4 poison damage. And while I know the DC for this saving throw is pretty low, especially for higher level campaigns, you're still getting the possibility of an extra 2d4 poison damage for free each turn with no action cost to your character. And at lower levels, this can absolutely make your Grung the highest damage dealer in your party. Now for the drawbacks, because a race as powerful as the Grung obviously has to have some downsides to it. First, the easy one, languages. Grungs only start the game with the ability to speak, read, and write Grung. This means you're going to have to take a class or a background that gives you access to another language, so that you can pick up Common and be able to speak with your fellow party members. Next is the big one, water dependency. If you fail to immerse yourself in water for at least 1 hour during a day, you suffer one level of exhaustion at the end of that day, and you can only recover from this exhaustion through magic or by immersing yourself in water for at least 1 hour. This means if you're playing in a campaign without a bunch of water everywhere, you're going to have to plan around this drawback, either by taking a class that has access to create or destroy water, or by taking the magic initiate feat and learning the spell that way. Alternatively, if your DM is okay with it, taking the Astral Drifter background will give you the Cleric Magic Initiate feat instantly, which will give you access to the necessary spell. Or maybe you can just have one of your bigger party members carry around a bucket for you. Now I'd like to talk about some optional features for your Grung character, assuming it's okay with your DM, of course. The first being variant Grung poisons. These add additional effects to the Grung's ability to set the poison condition and are based on the Grung's color. First off, we have green. The poisoned creature can't move except to climb or make standing jumps. If the creature is flying, it can't take any actions or reactions unless it lands. Next is blue. The poisoned creature must shout loudly or otherwise make a loud noise at the start and end of its turn. Purple. The poisoned creature feels a desperate need to soak itself in liquid or mud. It can't take any actions or move except to do so or to reach a body of liquid or mud. Red. The poisoned creature must use its action to eat food if it's within reach. Orange. The poisoned creature is frightened of its allies. And gold. For the leaders of the Grung Society, a creature poisoned by a gold Grung is charmed and it learns how to speak Grung. Next is a cool homebrew feature that I previously worked with another player on, and personally think makes sense lore-wise, so I would have no problem adding it into my own game. But this is obviously going to push the limits with your DM, so be sure to butter them up beforehand. Seeing as the Grung are arboreal tree frogs, living in treetops and having both a climbing speed and a trait named arboreal alertness, I think it only makes sense that the Grung should be able to stick to walls and ceilings, much like tree frogs can in real life. How we made this work in the context of D&D was essentially giving the grungs the spider climb ability, but recontextualizing it into frog terms, calling it sticky toe pads. Now this is obviously even more unofficial than the grung race itself, but if it's something you can work out with your DM, I think it really adds to the feeling of playing one of these little poisonous frog guys. And hell, if you pair it with their poisonous skin, maybe it even makes a ranger a viable class. Well, that's going to be it for our video on grungs, but hopefully I've helped show off one of the D&D races I think is really cool and unique. And maybe you'll even consider giving them a shot in your next campaign. Like I said earlier, this is our first video for this channel, so thank you to everyone who watched, and be sure to check back next time when we go over another race I think doesn't get enough love. Plasmoids.